to go through an array of negative emotions. Because that's the nature of the environment in this physical world. Constant change and temporary. And if we seek stability, certainty, and permanence and not get it, we feel anxious, we feel stressed, we get angry when we don't get what we want. This is how we understand why we are feeling these emotions. Because neither our profession nor our relations nor anything materialistic or financial, neither the social aspects of our life have the potential to offer stability. They keep fluctuating and trigger a wave of emotions within us. The one objective that we can keep is to remain empty of every aspect of this world. And go within and ask one question. Why am I here on this world stage? Who am I? Do I even know myself? Apart from the identity I have known on this world stage, of the acquired identity of name, body, the role I'm performing. But all of this is not my permanent identity. It will perish. So who am I without a body? Relations came through the body. Profession came through the body. social life came through the body, and the body itself is matter. What is my identity without this body? That identity has stability and permanence. And the more we stay connected to this identity, the more we are in control of how we feel. Our objective is clear. We are not driven by the aims and objectives of this world stage of five elements and matter, of bodily beings and the body, because our perspective has shifted inward to the true meaning of life. Who am I without this body? How do I introduce myself to myself? I am an energy of peace. I experience this peace when I shut down my awareness on this body and bodily world, when I become empty. This emptiness, this silence, this peaceful energy is my first introduction to me. And as more and more we sit in this emptiness, we get introduced to the other energies. That is me. So until we don't set this objective of connecting with who we truly are, we will not experience stability or permanence that we long for. So let's bring our awareness back into the session today with the right perspective so that we are not swayed by stress, anxiety, anger, any unpleasant emotion. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started for today's session. I'm not sure if you all of you saw the note, but it seems like majority of you needed an additional 1 week, which is perfectly okay because um, it's not important to know, how much you've learned. What is important is how much you remember and how much you can apply. You can read 3 full textbooks on data architecture. That will just give you a feel good effect, but it won't help you because that feel good effect just carries you a little bit forward. What is important is how much you've understood, how much you are able to remember based on that understanding, and how much you can apply. So that's the intention of we said, we will do an exam which will help you revise. And our purpose for today is just to revise some of the previous concepts, just to make sure you've not only listened, but you understood and you remember it, which will make it easier for you to apply. So I hope it's okay with everyone. And Ashish and Anita, I think you prepared more than others, which is always good because then you can help answer some of the questions which others have as well. So it'll be a good revision for you, and plus it'll add more to your confidence. So with that, I will you can unmute yourself and ask questions or say this concept is not clear, it looks very complicated, or you posted this topic but you never covered it in detail, or I looked for it on Google, it's even more confusing now. So this is your session. You can define the agenda specific today. If not, then I'll cover something more, but before I keep on adding more, I would rather make sure that we build a solid foundation before keep on adding more. So anyone wants to go first, or just talk about what you've revised, what helped you, or any additional information that you found that you want to share, or anything you want to share.
Yeah, Mukesh, one thing while revising these topics,
Yes, I.
though I mean like probably and then I said that probably I tried to revise, but certainly we are not fully confident to about all the topics and all. That's why we said we can have at least this session and go ahead with that. But it's perfectly all
Yeah,
right
no,
because
that's
we
always a
still
good
need to
idea.
learn. Or it still
The
need
reason
to learn.
I I think it's a good idea preparing for it is because there's a very common tale. A professor asked his students, take this one book, it had like 500 plus pages, and said, when would you be prepared to answer any questions based on the book? One student said 1 month, another said 6 months, another said 2 months, and they all varied. And there was one student, he didn't answer. And the professor said, what about you? And he said, tell me when is the exam, and I'll start a night or 2 weeks before that. And then that's very true because, if I tell you that you have an exam after 6 months, majority of it will start 2 weeks or a day before or a week before the exams because, we're not prepared for, we don't like giving exams. So that's why if we don't set a date, then you'll be like, yeah, you'll get very comfortable and you'll be like, I'll just do it. And intentionally, I wanted to keep that poll to the last minute. So that way it pushes you further to study as much as you can. But now that extra 1 week will there's no more extension after that. So
Yes,
please
certainly.
use.
Okay, that trick, your trick is really helped because, bec I mean, though I was also, not able to spend the complete week's time, and in the last 2 days we were, just pushing because the date is near, and just before the session also we are trying to cover that, so that really, helped, and now we will be more confident after next 1 week. One
Exactly.
thing yeah, one more thing I wanted to, while we started the revision, there are three different levels of our understanding, like whatever conceptually you have taught us, So conceptually, I mean, we should all be knowing that. But the second level, what are your expectations? The second would be like comprehensive understanding and, articulating it, conceptual plus, some kind of, practical aspect or with examples or, technical tools and how they are applied. And third would be like, if I'm giving a, talk on this topic, and it could be like, drill down like a interview kind of a question. So out of these three, I mean, what's your expectations?
Sorry, Ashish, I lost my connection for
Okay,
3 seconds. So you
okay.
mentioned three, but I didn't
Yeah,
hear
three.
some part of it. If you
First is
don't
like,
mind
yeah,
telling.
first is like, yeah, it's first is like conceptually, we wanted to understand the basics and understand the words,
Yeah,
what exactly is the principle. So probably that,
yeah,
probably we all are, would be good on that. Second would be like comprehensively, doing that topic, conceptual plus, some kind of technical or implementational or tool-based thing. And third
yeah,
would be like, if a interview style, if we are giving talk and
yeah.
then probably it's getting drilled down
All
in
three.
all
Yeah.
aspect. Okay.
Right. All three. The way I look at it is, for the first minute, for the conceptual, I follow the 2 minute rule that you are able to talk about anything, everything for 2 minutes, right? Which shows that you're knowledgeable. If you're really expert in something, then, you should be able to talk about, it for 10 minutes at least, share your experiences. Don't keep your answers too short because that's what happens, when you are a beginner because you're worried that if you speak more then you might say something which is incorrect, so because of lack of confidence, you tend to keep the answers short, and the recruiter will quickly catch up on that, and the feedback they'll give is there was not much depth in the answers, and I've made those mistakes as well. uh, so you want to share your experience, and you want to be able to say, give examples. So for example, they'll say, tell me something about yourself. Say I'm result oriented, I'm action oriented. uh, Fine, everyone will say that. Prove it, right? Give an example to show that you are result oriented. Talk about a project where you got results, or I like to build reusable interfaces. Talk about a project where you actually build what the specifics are, because that adds a lot to the confidence as well. So give examples. So to answer your question, yes, all three. You need to. If you know the topic well, it's very easy to summarize it and put it in 2 minutes. If you really know it well, you can certainly talk about a specific topic for 10 minutes. And then sometimes you may not know much about it. Use your foundational basic knowledge to just say, I'll think out loud. I may not know the answer, but at least I want to share my thinking process. And that is very important for an architect, is your thinking process, because new technologies will come, new tools will come in the market, but how you think, that is very important, and that clearly shows how good or a normal architect you are. As I said before, right, an architect who just builds as per the specs is a normal architect, nothing specific, or nothing special about that architect. But a good architect will anticipate changes in the future and not only build what are the required specs, but will build in such a way so that as and when changes come in, you are able to adapt to those changes. Otherwise, it will constantly add to the cost. So you just don't want to be an architect, a mediocre architect. You want to be the best. You want to be a good architect. And in order to be a good architect, you need to have seen enough case studies. You need to know what are the possible changes that could happen. So by looking at the trends in the market, you will be able to say, what about this? Example is like just like I'm giving you an example, you can give an example as well. Your requirement specification says, I want you to move data from SAP to sales. I want you to move customer data from SAP to Salesforce CRM. That's it. That's a business. So there's usually business requirements captured in a BRD, business requirement document, and it would have a one-line sentence like this. Now we need to convert it into a technical specification or a technical requirement. And that requirement would be, I need to move data, right? Specifically which data, right? And then you can identify which table within SAP, and how to move it and when to move it as well, right? You want to move it daily, you want to move it real time, you want to move it API. And that's where the skills of an architect come in, because the business requirement is vague. So you can, if you are used to building batch interfaces, you'll say, okay, no problem. You need customer data, I will build a customer batch interface, custom batch interface for you. But a good architect will say, let me build an API because I can achieve a similar outcome with an API, but then other applications who need the data in real time can reuse this interface. So this is an example where, you as an architect, you could have easily met the requirement by creating a batch feed, but you went in for real time because that allows you to build more reusable interfaces. So I don't know if I answered your specific question, Ashish, but the more knowledge you have, show it. Don't be shy about it, because the whole purpose of the interview is to showcase your skills, your knowledge, your depth of knowledge, your experience. So that's why, after these theory sessions, the case studies is where their practical experience would be reflected. Because when you want to put stuff on your CV, you need to put case studies, and most of the time, you can read a book but you don't have a case study, and then you don't feel confident. So the case studies is where you will be able to talk about specific instances, and not only be able to clear interview, but you've seen enough examples where you feel, fairly confident enough. Now, there will always be situations where you don't know, like there are some things which even I don't know when I'm designing, but that's where Google and ChatGPT comes in as an assistant. You can leverage it as well. Look at documentation, talk with your colleagues, or with network with senior people. You can call me and ask as well. uh, but it's okay. Everyone is learning. No one expects you to be 100% perfect. Now, there are some interviews in which the person who's interviewing is not that knowledgeable, and many times, especially in India, that's very common. A person who's a developer has been a developer for such a long time that they got the title of architect just because someone promoted them as an architect, but their mindset is still of a developer, and the kind of questions they'll ask you will be that of a developer. So they've got the title of architect, but they still think like a developer. They want the other architects to join their team as a developer as well. Those interviews you just can't win. I mean, just let it go. So as I said, right, some interviews are good, some are bad. That's one of them. You just don't even worry about it. So you need to know, who is interviewing you, and what their skill set is. Because I've come across that many times. Usually, I'll ask my interviewer, if the person is from India, is it a developer or an actual architect? And do they have architectural experience, or they're just asking questions for the sake of it? Because I don't even want to give that interview because it's a waste of time. So that itself shows confidence, and then they'll be like, yeah, yeah, no problem. And then that creates a pressure on the interviewer who's pre-screening you to make sure they ask you, sensible questions. Otherwise, you will complain against them. So, it is, you can certainly give that feedback to the recruiter as well. That happens quite a while, especially in India. Okay. Ashish, I don't know if I gave you the answer right.
Yes, Mukesh, you gave the answer. So the thing is that certainly we'll try to prepare accordingly, and yes, we need to look forward to scenarios and case studies to get that fully done. But because I mean conceptually, I still feel that conceptually we are okay, and to apply it to according to scenarios and other things. So that will probably happen in the due course with case studies and all
Yeah.
those scenarios.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And for those who are not even applying for a data architect, these concepts will still help you because you will go in a lot confident as a project manager, as a business analyst, or as a tester. And even though you're a tester right now, uh, please try to take a step up, because testing is at the bottom of the IT food chain. You won't be able to make money. You'll be stuck there forever. So use this knowledge to say, I know a lot about data architecture. I can do data engineering. Or maybe, if you really want to test it, start testing for projects that are deployed on the cloud, or upskill yourself. That way, you can self promote yourself. But try to get out of testing, because testing jobs are the least paid in IT. A lot of manual labor work as well, and you don't get rewarded for the time you spend. So nothing wrong with testing. Is just that the pay is wrong. The pay is too low as compared to an architect or a project manager. As well. Even a business analyst gets paid a little bit more than a tester. So try to think about your career path. How do you move away from testing? Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, or topic you want to revise, or you revise something you were prepared for today and you want to talk about it for 2 minutes? The more you talk, the more confidence you'll get. Here, just remember, you know, never take things personally. No one cares, and don't be judgmental. So use this as a practice ground where you will be able to prepare for interviews where you can talk and be able to uh, be more confident when you start speaking. So I want you to get habitual where you're able to unmute yourself and talk about 2 minutes for anything related with data or any topic you were at least prepared for, right? I mean, you got in 1 week extension, but I'm sure there is something you prepared for. So I would strongly encourage you to unmute yourself. Some of you, I've talked with you one on one, but never heard it in a group call. So that's why in universities, they'll have a lot of group assignments as well, and they'll have presentations and so on. So that way, you're not shy. You're comfortable working in a team. You're comfortable working as a group and as an individual contributor. So use this as an opportunity to just unmute yourself and talk whatever comes in your mind. That way, you'll get rid of your fear. This is your chance to get rid of your fear if you have any.
Yeah, in this, I just would like to ask on this one particular question. Like we covered data governance, but when I was just referring the tools which are required for data governance, I was not confident in that. So wanted to get more brief or
Yeah,
knowledge on it.
very good. I'm glad you brought that.
Mukesh,
Yeah.
Mukesh, can I answer? Try to answer
Yes,
this.
please. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have also faced the challenge. So thing is that these are data governance tools are like, conceptually what we do as a data governor. It's not technical tools that's being asked. And there are a lot of tools in as in practice or process, what we do. So those are also called tools. And what technical tools we are using, that's a separate thing. So probably I think Mukesh must be referring here to the processes or that we use in the data governance. So I'll give the whatever tools are there, like one is a data quality matrix is there, compliance requirement is there. I mean,
So when I found this answer, I got tools like Colibra, Informatic, then IBM, SAP Data Intelligence. So I was not sure whether this all we had covered or is the answer correct for this question?
Yeah. So I'll answer.
so Mukesh, I'll extend it. So these
Yes.
tools are technical tools which we use, for this data governance. So that's technical tools. That's like a simply tool. But what we do exactly with these tools, those are the tools that are being asked here. So those are like, master data management. So that's a tool that you apply through a technical tool, which like you have Colibra and all. Data security and compliance. So that's the tool which you apply to do the data governance. And there are different technical tools are there. Data lineage tools are there. Data catalog tools are there, and metadata management tools are there. So these tools are what we are trying to do as a process. And Second would be what tools we are using, like Collibra, Alation, and all those things. So these are two different distinctions. So for these tools, like I mentioned, data quality, how we are maintaining data quality, how we are doing metadata management, how we are doing data cataloging, how we are doing data lineage, data security, and MDM. So all these as a process come under data governance, and then there will be respective technical applications that will be able to implement all these.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll add to what Ashish said. What Ashish said is right. So I'll rephrase the question. There are different tools used in data governance, but the purpose of the tools is different. So if the question is what are specific data governance tools, then what the purpose of that data governance tool like Colibra is to log issues, right? So we've got a data quality issue with customer data. Now, I can capture that in Excel, but then I need to assign it and make sure it's done and so on. So tools like Colibra, they help you govern the data in an effective way where you will have a data owner. It will do the data profiling. It will store all the metadata. You can see the model. So it provides you one consolidated platform where you can get a view of all the data and you can govern the data all within that same tool. But tools like Colibra are very expensive and not all organizations have it. But if says what are the data governance tools, say I'm familiar with Colibra, and you can watch a YouTube video on Colibra to see what it looks like. But not every organization use data governance tools. Now, as Ashish was saying, there are different tools that are used to govern the data. Example is master data management. Now, you can use a master data management tool to govern your data in the sense, where your master data is, what are the data attributes and so on. So even without using a data governance tool like Colibra, you can still manage the data within an MDM tool like IBM's InfoSphere MDN and so on. Because
So
these tools also have some capabilities to do data profiling. But you won't create a ticket. If you have to create a ticket and say, okay, I found these issues, who logged it and who fixed it, that you can do it in Jira as a ticketing process outside of the tool. But then some of these data governance tools are providing you all these capabilities within one tool itself. So there are fine variances in it. Like there are Informatica has a data quality separate tool as such. Now, if you're using Informatica's data quality tool, then you may not need to spend the money on data on Colibra, because Colibra can also log data quality issues, analyze your data, and do all the data quality and everything, right? So in this case, it depends on the organization, what existing tools they have, what it is they need, and what level of maturity they want to evolve to. Level 0 would be they do everything in Excel. But when you do in Excel, how can you share that data, right? Because I have my own version of Excel. Nowadays, you have Excel online and you can share it as well. But essentially, the collaboration part is what makes governance challenging as well. And having those owners and that visibility as such as to uh, who fixed what and what data was touched. And in heavy regulated industries like banking and so on, that collaboration and that reporting of data governance, how many issues were created this week, how many were fixed, how many are outstanding, you want to tightly govern it, and there are 10 people working on it, then a tool like Colibra definitely comes into picture. But even if you don't have Colibra, you can still do with the other tools you have, but those other tools are not very specific for data governance, but they are governing in one aspect of data governance, like master data management or governing the data security. So that's where the confusion would be. Anita, did that answer your question?
Yeah, yes.
So nowadays the trend is that AWS data catalogs are used. So this is a good question. Let me, since we have time, I can try answering that. Right. So
Mukesh
what are the
Bhaiji, Okay,
Yes.
Bhaiji, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask one question here. Uh,
Yeah.
Regarding this only, like that this data lake, Snowflake, these are also the tools for data means architecture.
Yes, yes, but different purpose for these tools, right? So
Mhm,
these are
mhm.
not one and the same tools. MDM is different from data lake. So Snowflake is data warehousing. Now, the purpose
Mhm.
of a data warehousing tool is it allows you to do number crunching and analyze the data. But it's not a
Okay.
tool for data governance as such, right? Purpose of governance, primarily one of the main purpose of governance is data quality. Now, since you have the data in Snowflake, you can do a profile and look at the data quality within Snowflake. But what if you have, Teradata and Snowflake? Then you've got three tools, and you need to have a process to make sure you're governing all the quality, all your data quality in all the data sources, not just in Snowflake as such. So yes, you've got different tools which do different things. They may be governing a limited aspect of your data, but you need to data governance is not limited to just one tool, but it is governing all your data irrespective of which data sources or data repository is being used. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Mukesh, one more thing, like probably like when we were searching, so we got different tools for different aspects of data governance, for lineage, for catalog, for MDM. Like
Yeah,
probably you're saying that Colibra is one tool which covers all the aspects.
correct. That is right. Yes. Yeah.
And what are the other tools like Colibra which cover all the
Data
aspects?
catalog. Yeah, data cataloging is one of the key capabilities, and that's where a lot of these cloud providers they are providing data catalog capabilities. So Azure Purview, you can pretty much manage your all data governance within Purview. So that's where a lot of organization which are using Azure and which are using a lot of .NET, they will go for Azure Purview. So I think I shared a link last week where uh, there was a posting for Azure Purview, and it was pretty hyping, like 800 pounds or something as such. So there are a lot of jobs in Purview. If the client is based on AWS platform, they would go for which one is it? AWS Data Catalog. So there are different tools depending. You have to look at the existing tech stack for the client and see, what it is that they have. If they are using pretty much everything on .NET, Microsoft, you definitely don't want to recommend AWS Data Catalog uh, as such. Purview may be the best fit. So look at the existing tech stack, see what they have, what their current level of maturity is, and then make a recommendation accordingly. Yeah. But to build on to that previous question, different tools, different purpose. They may have, data quality as one of the components, but again, every tool has different capabilities and a subset of those capabilities. So you just need to look at what it is. So always data governance, do a maturity, right? What level of governance they have, what it is that they have, and what is it lacking, and then based on what it is that's needed, you can then suggest a tool as such. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
Yeah, Mukesh, Bhaiji, I have one question. So, like, I'm working right now in the backend, as it means Java, Spring Boot, microservices. So, to come into this field, so will be good to come to switch from this to data architecture side?
Sorry, Manjit, I didn't follow. Switch to data architecture from which side? From which background?
From the backend, like Java.
Yes, so architecture is not specific to any programming language. You could be a .NET programmer, you could be Java developer, you could have, you could even be a Python developer. Architecture is more about, uh, you know, about how you are architecting and designing solutions, right? It's less
Okay.
about a particular programming language, because you as a .NET architect will only design a system which is based on .NET, or as a Java
Mhm.
programmer you will only design a system based on Java. However,
Yeah.
uh, you know as a data architect, or even as any architect, you are more focused on how to integrate that system with other systems, how to manage the data within the system, what integrations are needed, how to secure the data, how to use the data, how to send it to the data warehouse, and a lot of those other things.
And 15 years of experience, and uh, and like if I wanted to switch to this field, oh, experience basically, right? So in that case, how should I approach, I mean, to approach that change, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the change is more like, see, the change is more how you're designing the systems as such,
Okay.
how you're architecting it, in the sense how you're building and designing a solution. It's all about that. So it's not specific to a programming language as such. It's how you're doing integration of the data, where the data is coming, because in IT, there's no one system which is your organization. There's a lot of integration and involvement of different systems as to how to integrate it as such. So
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the programming language. Yes, it's desirable, but it's a lot too more about understanding the ecosystem and knowing
Mm.
how to integrate it with your ecosystem.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Fine. Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts? So yeah, so many times, I get questions asked, and in fact, this could be an interview question. There are two routes as to how you can build your career as a data architect. One is you can come through the developer route. Another is you can come through a DBA, a database administrator route. But I was never a DBA. I didn't become from a programmer to a data architect. I became a programmer, technical architect, .NET architect, then from .NET architect to more of a solution architect, integration architect, solution architect, cloud architect, data architect. So I took that route. But I've seen business analysts also become data architects as well. So there's no hard and fast rule that you have to do these things to become an architect. I've seen a lot of variations as such. Is those are the two typical routes where you become a programmer, and then you become an architect as such. And in the past, a lot of the database administrators, they would become architect, but that's actually viewed negatively, because the database administrator doesn't have much exposure to other tools, related integration or so on. So they are very restrictive in a way, or the experience is very restrictive. So if you've got some programming experience, all good. But if you don't, or if you have limited programming experience, that's good enough. So you can always say, yeah, I know programming, but you don't have to be a hacker or an ace programmer to be able to become an architect. Just some high level overview of programming is also good enough.
But Mukesh, we think like quite oppositely. I mean, when I am thinking, so I'm thinking that the guys who are doing into databases and all, so they are doing, like ETL and data integration, and probably they are doing all
No,
these
no.
data
Database
management.
guy usually won't do ETL. They will just be creating extracts, but they won't use an ETL tool. So for an ETL tool, there will be another ETL administrator. DBA typically won't administer your Informatica Power Center or anything like that. They would just be managing your databases. That's it. And typically, those database analysts are very restrictive. They'll only manage Oracle databases or SQL Server databases. If you tell them you want to manage a NoSQL database, they will cringe and they will reject it, right? They will oppose it, saying no, RDBMSs are better than NoSQL and so on, because that's the only thing they know. So that's why their exposure is very restrictive. That's why it's seen negatively at times.
Yeah. Hi, Mukesh.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I develop engineering products, so I am not into the databases, and I studied database management, RDBMS long back, but I am not into database management things. So you mentioned about uh, testing on the cloud. What do you mean by that? How does it work?
So basically, you have a solution, but now it's deployed on the cloud. So we need to test those interfaces. So it's not much difference, but just the fact that you got cloud on your CV, that's good enough, because many organizations feel that if you don't know anything about cloud or how to log into cloud, then they see that in a negative way.
Okay. Another question is, you said you will be doing AI/ML later. So I assume these kind of classes like data architecture and the LLM, all these will help me in more understanding about the AI/ML.
Absolutely.
Is it?
Definitely. Because the problem is, the AI guys, they don't understand data. They don't understand how and where the data is. They just see the data coming into the data lake, right? So that's how
Yeah.
they look at it. So they have, it's like a black box to them. They have no idea. So this way, how the data got to the data lake, right? What is the data lake? What is data governance? AI guys, they have no idea, right? So if you tell them, I want to profile my data, and if it's a junior data analyst, they will be like, what does even that mean? Senior guy would probably know that, but it will definitely help.
Okay, thank you. Because my other team they are doing radar analysis, large data analysis. So he was talking about, oh, I am setting a computer with 150 GB RAM and this, that. Then I explained to him what you said about the LLM model. Then he was amazed. Oh, okay. Now I understand what you are talking about. So yeah, so I think it will help. It will be useful in future. Thank you.
We would like to learn from your experience, Ramesh, like with your background. How are you coping up and finding data architecture? Is it too hard, or is it making sense, or is it a lot of learning? Because many people, they think only their path is difficult, rest is easy. but every path, when you walk on it, it comes with its own set of challenges. So I was wondering if you want to share, how do you feel so far? What are the challenges in learning data architecture? What have been the challenges for you? So that way it will help others.
Okay, so to mention about whatever you are teaching now, what we are learning is actually happening in the field. Like when we buy some items on some website, shopping website, then it gives us recommendation. These things I wouldn't understand without attending these classes. So it helps me in understanding the real life ones, like what is happening for common people. So ours is a bit specific. Like currently I'm working on radar technology. I'm working on display software, which brings all the background data like safety of life at sea, SOLAS, and surveillance software, integrating cameras and these kind of high-tech things, where we are using similar tools that you are talking about. Like, for example, we are using Visio to plan, to design, and Jira to capture, Bitbucket to integrate our background data, the server. Um, we have Git and then Git Kraken to see the files, the program that we have archiving, and Bitbucket that integrates, and the Jira to log the issues or the new features, bugs, whatever it is. So all are integrated with the different tools. Bitbucket, when we have done something, then you can create a pull request. Another developer or someone who is interested or who can understand what we are doing, they can review whether the developer or whoever has done is correct. And so they review, and then seamlessly we can merge the developer's code into the Git from Bitbucket itself. So lots of tools are helping us nowadays, whereas we had to do on our own, like when we have PVCs, whatever, in a long back. So now a lot of tools available, and ours is also a bit complicated in the sense engineering. When we have different devices, we have to network all the systems, and then networking and assigning. These things are really challenging because in real life, talking to each device makes us challenging work. Like how do we communicate, because the data is secure, the ones that you talked about, like SFTP, FTP and all. So if the data is secure, how to view the data, how to debug, how to know if the data is actually sent out of the system, and is there a problem in sending out or receiving? Are we sending the right data? So every step is really challenging. But we are using similar tools that you are talking about, like now the quality control. You are talking about the Colibra and all. So in engineering, we have something similar to do that. And radar analysis, there are some data analysis tools like Carpet, and to extract data from the large data, like when you would have seen in airports the antenna going around. We have similar antennas going around, which sends out RF and then receives data. We capture the data, we store it, and out of that we have to extract the targets, like whether a tree is swaying or a dog is going or it is a human being, or depending on the type of radar we provide. For example, for fishing, they use our radar. If lots of um, birds are flying at certain area in sea, then the fishing boats can go there, knowing that because of birds, there will be a lot of fish. and we sell radars for surveillance in South African forests. If someone killing some animals illegally, so that can be detected in this, and surveillance, border security. So many we sell or we do some specific projects for some specific countries. Depending on the country, we may or may not be allowed to sell some. Say, for example, high resolution radars cannot be sold to some Middle East countries. They might be using for something else. So how much data we capture, how much data we log, how much data is used for analysis, what kind of data extraction we can do from that, all depends on the data that we store in the background. That
So
makes
Ramesh,
sense.
are you using RDBMS or NoSQL databases for capturing that kind of information?
We store, it's in memory only,
Okay.
or we log something like, if it is through network, we store that as the PCANG, something like that, which we can replay using Wireshark. Or the another department that does the analysis or R&D, whatever, they use some tools like to store and what is the term? I forgot. The engineering tool to replay the data and analyze. So it depending on the team that are using different types of logging. We just get the live data from the radar, maybe from more than one radar. We just capture that in the memory at runtime, worth of 9 scans or 5 scans, whatever, depending on how much history we are going to show. For example, if someone wants to see where we were 30 minutes back, so we are storing only 30 minutes of data. Then we use that for analysis. Yeah, so it depends on which department and for what the data is stored. Sometimes we have to record. Sometimes we have to record the data worth of
But like,
some
do you
5
capture
GB,
the
10 GB.
data? So Ramesh, I'm just trying to understand. So it seems like you got some hardware device like a radar or something. You have multiple radars, or you have a radar at site at the airport or something. That radar is doing a sweep and capturing it emits radio frequencies. It does a sweep and it gets that data, something which is typically processed in some central server or somewhere, and then that data is analyzed and stored. So do you know, like you said it in memory, but then outcome of that data processing, where is that stored? Because if it's in memory, then if it reboots or anything, then that memory will be flushed out. So usually it will store the outcome saying, okay, 3 birds found at this time, and it will store somewhere that data. Do you know where they store it? Like, is it in semi-structured data or structured data, or what database? That's how I would think and question as a data architect. So I'm just thinking out loud to see how a data architect would analyze the information that you shared.
We don't store all the data. We store only the necessary ones. For example, when we are sailing, we wanted to extract or detect targets at certain angle, and we take the data and send us some NMEA style messages that is stored. We don't store all the data because it is very difficult to capture all the data, because per scan we are getting lots of data, or 4096 traces per scan, and it could be 1 MB or 2 MB. So that means per minute it will be lot, and we are not storing on any server. We don't have any server concept.
Okay.
We store some data and analyze in MATLAB.
Okay.
But
Okay.
ours is display software. We just I'm on the software side. My degree is in electronics and communications,
Okay.
software and master. So I do both. So we get the data from the radar and we display, and we extract only the data that we wanted and store as some other messages. And for example, we have VDR, voyage data recorder, similar to black box on flight, and those things are just instances of. So we capture our screen and store that just in case of a ship sinks, they can bring that VDR back, and then they can restore data like what happened, conversations happened on the bridges in the ship, and the screen capture where the ship was going, what was the situation on all these things. But those are all some flat file storing. We don't use the big data storage.
Okay. Okay. So more of an interview question for you. Assume this is an interview. So as a data architect, what would you do different in your current system to make sure you're maximizing the value in your data? And I'm
Um,
putting you on the spot, so don't worry. There's no right
no,
or wrong.
I understand what you mean. So at the moment,
Thinking out loud.
the radar, the radar analyst people um, capture some data, they analyze, but um, when it comes to the point of utilizing AI and ML for analysis, we may have to store a lot of data. Currently, we don't have that much volume of data stored. So people are analyzing with the limited data, and they are coming up with algorithms like on a rainy day when the fog or mist is more in the sea, how to extract or how to see the targets, ships sailing clearly. So at the moment, it depends on the R&D people analyzing, but our plan is like capture a lot of data, use the AI and ML to analyze or to extract data from the captured data. So in future, not at the moment, it is not happening. In future, it may be necessary to store all the data or the data as much as we can, and from that use the AI and ML technologies, ChatGPT or whatever. I don't understand fully, but use the AI ML to extract targets from the stored data, or how to filter the data for the necessary things, so that we have some filters like sea, gain, rain, and things like that. So we should be able to detect targets on a rough day, like if the waves are too much, then how will you filter out the water and see only the targets? So for that, we may require a lot of data. So in future, this course will help me in how to capture, store, do a virtualization of bringing together all the data to extract the data that we needed. It will be useful in future. That's my understanding anyway.
That is correct. So I'll just generalize this for everyone else's benefit. So the way I look at things is I usually try to think of it as a pattern, right? Where your specific device may be different, but it fits in the pattern where you've got edge computing devices. In this case, the radar is at the edge, in the sense it's at your client's perimeter. It's at the airport, it's on the sea or so on. It's not within your data center, right? So in that case, there's limited data processing you can do at the edge. And if you want to really analyze the data, you need to get it to the data lake. Why? Because that's where you can use the massive computing power. You can use the degree of parallelization. Most important in this case, the example you gave, you can use this data and join it with other data sources like weather data. So if I know, you know, there's fog, there's low visibility, or based on the temperature, so on, I can then predict patterns during the day. I can predict weather patterns correlated with my radar or my device to see how I can configure it or how I can predict that configuration to get the optimal value from my data. And using the power of AI, I can then predict that, usually this time of the year, temperature drops down, there's low visibility, and so on. So I can optimally fine tune the configuration parameters of the radar as well. That's how I would think and approach it.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment, we take or we extract only what we needed. But if the technology is available, like as you said, if we can store a lot of data and we can extract more than what we are doing now. Yeah, you're right. That could be the way forward. Thank you.
So we did a case study, unplanned case study. Thanks to Ramesh for sharing all the information. But I think doing more of such from different domains will give you a lot of confidence as well, because we've covered a little bit of the retail, but since I've worked with multiple domains, we'll cover use cases from multiple domains, because that will also add to your confidence as such. Any other questions or thoughts? How are you guys all revising? Like, are you taking notes and revising from the notes? You're asking ChatGPT, or how are you revising? Because I want to make sure you're using your time in a way so that you remember more by doing less. Because I don't want you to unnecessarily work hard and then get frustrated. I think I spent so much time revising and now I've forgotten again everything. So do you guys remember the technique for remembering things for a longer time? What technique specifically you are using so that you remember it a lot more and for a longer time?
I take notes and do sometimes self-talking. What he has said, something like that, what Mukesh said, and how that could be used, and relating in real life, like for example, when you thought about the recommendations made on a website when you buy something, then I just try to recollect that, yeah, Mukesh said this one, so this is how it is happening. So from my childhood, I have a habit of if I learn something, then I just tell people this is what I learned, and whether they use it or not, it's up to them, but I keep telling.
Yeah, no, so that's the power of teaching, and it's the gift of teaching, that when you teach others, you automatically remember it, because when you're teaching, it's not the moment when you're speaking. The process, the thinking process goes on in your mind a lot before that. And that reinforces that information where you're constantly thinking about it. In a way, that's revision as such. And that's why when you explain it and if someone asks a question, you'll just remember things. So that's where the more you share, the more you teach. It's one of the ways you'll automatically remember it for a longer time. Like Ashish will definitely remember data governance for a long time because he answered it. So he will remember that discussion more than others because he participated in it. Anita would remember that answer also for a long time. So that's why. Right, wrong doesn't matter. Ramesh tried today. There are still other participants on this call who haven't spoken today. I want you to please speak. Use this opportunity. Even say hello and say, this is difficult. Help me with this thing, what it is. But get into the habit of speaking.
Mukesh, the I mean, crux is like whatever. I mean, we say that wherever you are focusing your consciousness, it grows. So it's from the learning point of view. Also, if you are focusing in different ways, you will be learning. Like first step, we are getting into the class and taking the download from you, and then probably if you are noting down a little notes, and then I mean more thing we have acquired from ChatGPT, because there are a lot of questions were there that needed to be searched upon. So that way, so all these focus, revising, telling something, we need to attack it from the multiple points. And because focus is there with different aspects, so it automatically goes into your inner self. And one important thing which I was doing today, I wanted to share. Today itself, I was doing this. The question you asked is like for auth2 and authorization and SAML and all. So I revised that. But when we try to see that how I'll be answering this, how I'll be doing it in interview, or how I'll be sharing in the class, and try to jot it down on a paper, then probably that's the part, because we have learned so many aspects and concepts, but we'll not be able to speak. But how we will be able to speak is that when we have some process or some picture in our mind. So after learning, just try to do the revision once. It's like that how you are teaching or how you will be answering. And normally then you will organize whatever information you have gathered and organize it in a kind of a map or a picture, which will be with you like kind of forever, and you will be able to speak very thoroughly.
Ashish, so different people have different ways of grasping knowledge. Some like listening, some want to see a video, some want to see an animation. I take full responsibility that none of the calls actually presented any slides, although I have many. But this was an experiment, and maybe you guys can give the feedback. I kind of did it intentionally, and it was unintentional as well. Intentionally, in the sense, what I find is that if you get the slides, your mind says, well, I don't need to pay attention. I have the slides. I can always look at them later on. That peace of mind makes you more relaxed. You lose the ability to grasp and say, what I need to do. The reason why I say that is when I was learning and doing engineering, the books which I couldn't afford, I used to go to the library and study from it. The day I bought that book and I bought it home, I had that sense of comfort that I can always refer to that book. I must have hardly opened that book 2 times, whereas when it was in the library, I read the book back to back 2 times. So it made a huge difference bringing the book home and buying it versus knowing that it's temporary and I don't have access to it. It made me value it more and use it. So I was thinking maybe, this might work, that without slides, at least you will know you have less and you have to do more with that. Whereas if I give the slides, then you'll be like, I have everything. Now that you've learned, you remembered it, have all the slides, I will give it to you. That will help you with, but that was the intention behind it. So I don't know if it served the intention or not, but that was the reason why I didn't have the slides as such.
Yes, Mukesh, I mean, I think that served the purpose, because certainly if we have all the slides, so we'll not be, revising and all. We'll saying that, okay, this the diagram is there for like data integration and all, how it's happening. But now when we don't have that, I mean, initially for a couple of sessions, we didn't go back, but yes, afterwards, we need to go back to the recording and try to jot it down, because we don't have anything. So we need to jot it down and we need to understand. So we need to go back to the in whatever script notes are there and whatever recordings are there at least once, and just try to refine it. So that way we are focusing it from different angles also, and doing it yourself and trying to remembering. So that again, that consolidates the memory for that topic.
Yeah. So I find personally the trick of revising frequently and summarizing the notes in a PowerPoint as an effective way to quickly revise it, and revising it at least daily for the first week of new content that I've learned, trying to summarize it, put it in a picture which makes sense to me, because then my revision is a lot quicker. If I have taken notes and then I'm reading the same notes 7 days, it gets boring, and the brain doesn't then retain it anyway. But still, it's helpful. But after the second reading, I'll try to create a visual out of it. The third day, I'll try to add more text to it or something. That way, I'm reinforcing the same information, but there's slight modification to it. I'll watch a YouTube video for that same topic. And that way, your brain is getting similar information, but in different format, in different media. And that way, you tend to remember it a lot longer. And that revision is what helping you to retain that information for a long time as well. I'll share one experience. Recently, I had to go for a driver's license exam. I thought, I don't have memory problems, at least now. It should be a piece of cake just going and passing the exam. So I was overconfident. Of course, overconfidence is the downfall, no matter how much you think you remember. So I failed. Next time, I was like, okay, I'll go and study it. I did study. I failed again. So then I was like, there's something seriously wrong in the way I'm memorizing or what it is. Then I came across a course which says money back guarantee. And I was like, okay, let me try it as well. And I passed the exam after that. And the trick they used is they use the similar questions which come in the exam. I was failing in those limited questions. I was always giving the wrong answer because it was wired in my mind that this is the right answer, but it was the wrong answer. That software, every time I failed, it would ask that same question again and again every day until I gave the right answer. And it was so repetitive that after a few tries itself, within 2 or 3 days, I was able to get 100 out of 100 because it focused on answers which were not right. And I was consistently answering it in the wrong way. But I was doing it on a daily basis. So then the mind says, okay, this is what it is. I had pre-programmed it with the wrong answer. It reprogrammed it with the right answer. And, of course, third time I cleared the exam. I had to give another similar exam related with citizenship. This time I knew exactly it's not worth even trying to remember everything. I went to that software, learned it the hard way. I made mistakes. What I thought was naturally right turned out to be wrong. I kept prompting for that same question until I answered it correctly. Within 3 days, I was getting 100 out of 100. What I learned is that if you learn from your mistakes, and if you're repeatedly learning from your mistakes, then that becomes your strength. So that memory technique helped me. So now if I have to do something similar, and if I have to remember it, I'll be focusing more on where am I tripping, and then self-correcting myself repeatedly until I get it right. So I hope this helps you as well. So I think we are at time. So hopefully, you guys will be able to make best use of this week. You can always post questions on WhatsApp. You can share your notes, whatever you want. It's the more you share, the more you will remember. With that, we can move to a mind empowerment technique. I wanted to get a quick yes.
Mukesh, before that, one more thing I'm thinking is that that will help us. Like all these theoretical and these aspects are covered already. Though, like from the data architect profile and what exactly is happening in day-to-day activities, like what's the day-to-day activities that data architect is doing. Like you shared like this data governance charter. So I have done PMP. I know that we need to follow that. Similarly, this data charter needs to be prepared first and then discuss whatever policies or quality metrics we'll be following. So all those things done at the start. Similarly, what are the other aspects like in day-to-day life of data architect are being done, or probably what are the key aspects that are done on on regular basis, like a profile kind of a thing. So that will
We'll
be
cover all that in a case study. So I'll share with you what exactly I'm doing, what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So you will get all of. I'll show you actually a data governance charter. I'll show you the slides that I've used to do data governance training as well. So now that you've got all the theory and everything, now sharing the slides makes perfect sense because you're not relying on that slides. The slides is just going to reinforce what has already been taught, and you can actually see practical examples. Like what we did today with Ramesh is a very good example because that's what I do when I go in for the client. I'll ask them these questions. I'll echo back and say, is this what you're doing? Is this my understanding? They'll say yes. Then I'll say, are you doing this? Are you doing that? So that thought process, as I was saying, right, doesn't matter whether it's a radar or whether it's a MRI machine, doesn't matter whether it's a security camera or whether it's some lab processing equipment. The fundamentals, the concepts remain the same. So once we do 3 or 4 of these, you'll be like, this is too easy. But once you do it, you get into the practice of it, you will be able to answer all of this. But I'll let you be the judge and see if you can answer it based on any unknown case study as well. Okay, so, and no other questions? I wanted to ask you, we've done a lot of mind relaxation techniques, meditation techniques. We've covered a lot of theory about it as well. But how effective is it? Is it helping you, or is it just because you have to attend it to attend the rest of the session, or is it making a difference in your lives in a positive way? Because time is precious. I don't want to just use your time, but it should be making an impact and making your lives better. So I just wanted to get quick feedback as to which one of the techniques that you remember and is helping you in situation. Otherwise, another way is if it becomes boring and theoretical, I can take practical situations and explain it to you how to use these techniques for making our lives better. So it's not theoretical, just like data architecture. How to apply it, maybe that would help you. So I'm just thinking from that perspective on how to evolve and make it better so that way it's benefiting you instead of just making it as a formality.
Hello, here Damayanti. Actually, from this session, I have learned a lot. Like previously, I'm working on Python programming, but as I'm working on Python, still I didn't know a lot of things actually, like Anaconda and other stuffs like data visualization, more concept on that. And I'm mentoring my juniors. So the juniors are very smarter than me actually. They are coming up from the colleges and they know much more about the Python stuffs. So from this session, even I'm able to mentoring my juniors because by knowing these things, I could mentor a lot of things actually. And also I'm learning from this also. And also I could give up my views to my teams actually also. Teammates actually what is my in I'm getting stronger also in part of participating in the decision making in the team also.
Thank you, Avanti, for sure. Anyone
Yeah.
else wants to share? Please be fearless, right? If it's not benefiting you, don't hesitate because when you give that feedback, it's an opportunity for us as a team as to how to get better.
Also
It's
I'm
not in
helping
any way.
also I also helping actually I have some enhancement or course actually in my team actually automation design. So I'm empowering my design also and reframing it with new information received from here also. So in that way, my programming skill also getting developed and performance level have been increased.
Thank you very much, Gandhi. My phone might discharge any minute. I hope it would, but difficult for me to get back online since I'm not in front of the computer and I'm at the top of a mountain. So it'll take me a while before I get back to the computer. Anyone else wants to share anything?
Okay, Damayanti, that's very good. You're helping others. And Ashish Bhaiya, thank you IT to analyze what is data picture, know the roles and responsibilities of the data architecture. Use it, use learn it, use ChatGPT.
Hello, Mukesh.
Yeah,
We
thank
have
you. Ashish, you were saying something?
Yeah, we were not able to hear. I think Sarita, she was saying something.
Yeah, I
So
couldn't
another thing,
hear. I
like,
thought maybe it's you.
so Mukesh, like you said, I mean, whether these are helpful or not, certainly these are helpful. Uh, but yes, like you suggested, probably we are having, at the beginning or at the end. The second practical aspect, how practically it can be done. So probably in the while ending, so you can take that practical aspect on that part. Uh, yes, because we know a lot of things and we also learn it, but how will we applying it, into the lives or the scenarios? So that will certainly be helpful. So that way we can have both, like whatever way we are
Yeah,
doing in
yeah.
the
No,
beginning
we'll
and the
cover it
practical
because there are
aspect.
so many. So I had a situation this week where there was an ego clash between two of my members. How to resolve it, right? You're a team lead. They've got personality issues. How can you use all this mind empowerment knowledge to help them work together? And that's a very common situation, very common challenge. So we'll cover situations like these where your boss says something and you're pissed off. I mean, your temperature is gone up. Fine. So how to handle and deal with those situations? And I'm sure there are so many practical situations. If you just send me your situation, we will use the knowledge and say how to actually apply it. So that way you'll be like, yeah, this applies to me as well. And you'll actually be able to use the knowledge and apply it in day-to-day life as well. So once we start the case studies, we will actually do the practical aspect of all these mind empowerment techniques as well. So with that, because my phone might die, I don't want to leave it in between. So we can end a little bit early today. So we're at time. So we'll see you next week, and hopefully you get sufficient time. Remember to report the outcome. It's that matters. First, how much effort you're putting into it. Answers. Certain. Great. And session.